I now know and I now understand that before the first test match, when the West Indies players, some of them at least, were talking about spoiling James Anderson's final test match, they were not talking about winning the test match. They were not talking about preventing James Anderson from getting any wicket in that test match. What they were actually talking about was not to form a guard of honor for James Anderson as he came out to bat. That was how the West Indies players had planned to spoil the first test match, which was James Anderson last. I also know, listening from conversations and the many posts on social medias, that West Indies supporters are hurting. And some of the comments demonstrate that, and I can understand. Comments like disgraceful, despicable. Those are some of the comments. I know that it was a hapless performances, but probably we are going in on them too harsh. But I know and I understand why you reacted like that. There are some things, though, that I don't know. And I've invited two of the best minds in cricket to join me this morning to help me to understand the things that I don't know. I have invited Basil Butcher, who has just returned from Barbados with his cricket team. He told me the name, but somehow it slipped me. So he will tell us. Basil Butcher is the son of the legendary West Indies cricketer, Basil Butcher. And he was also coach of the USA women team. I have also invited Roger Tracy, who is an organizer of cricket in Fort Lauderdale and is the chairman of the Cricket Forum Foundation Hurricane Burial Relief Effort. Please support our effort to bring some relief to the people of Jamaica. We hope to expand this into the Caribbean. But first, let us get the logistics in Jamaica right. We have a GoFundMe account, and you will see it in the video descriptions and in the live chat. Please click on the link and support it. Good morning, gentlemen. Starting with welcome to the show. Starting with you, Basil. What's your recap on the first test?
Good morning, Carlton. Good morning, Roger. Good morning to your viewers. Let me just be frank. What happened in that first test, I'm not surprised for several reasons. One, that middle order combined played less than 10 test matches combined, I think, if my numbers are correct from what I heard, right? 96 test matches from 1 to 5. Kraigg Brathwaite or 95, Kraigg Brathwaite playing 86 or so of them, right? That's one. Two, this team has little or no experience playing in English conditions, and many are good to very good batsmen. England has been their graveyard. They have taken several tours to England before they could come good in England. I can call ones right off the tip of my tongue. Mr. Richie Richardson is one of them. He took to 3 or 4 times before he came good in England. And finally, we came down on the batters, but we didn't give the credit to the English bowlers, who gave them nothing. And our batters had the worst of the batting conditions in that test match. So you put all those things together, you get the result what you have. You can't score 121 runs and expect to win a test match. You're always fighting uphill. And our bowlers initially did not help because they were wayward. It was very disappointing to see Alzarri Joseph, who's supposed to be the lead fast bowler in our team, leaking runs with such impunity. So all in all, it was not a good effort by our guys, and there are mitigating circumstances to that. I would, there's some things you want to discuss later in the show, so I leave that for later in the show.
Thank you very much, Basil. Roger, how do you summarize that first test performance from the West Indies?
First of all, Carlton, good morning to you. Good morning, Basil. Good morning to all your viewers out there. Look, Test cricket is tough business. And when we left the shores of the Caribbean, I think, and even the tournament previously, when we went to Australia, the tour, I think looking at this team, it didn't take, any rocket science to really, figure out or to wonder where is the runs going to come from. We take a look at, this team, we do know that, we don't necessarily have what we would call our first choice Caribbean batters out there. And even if we had those, it would probably still have been a struggle. So the truth is, looking at the team that we brought to England, we don't have the batting, right? And it was what I would describe as a truly diabolical performance. The other issue with our team is we don't seem to be playing any we don't have a philosophy, in terms of a style and a brand of how we want to play cricket in the Caribbean, particularly red ball cricket. It was always going to be a struggle. And once you bat in a test match and you make 121, you're always behind the game. You're under pressure immediately. So, we didn't perform well. It was a, very, very poor performance by our batsmen, by our team in general. And we were always going to struggle. I've seen the English press, and, they have been very sort of patronizing to our Caribbean boys. And I just want to, caution them, because England has also had a lot of bad days in cricket, right? A lot of teams have had terrible days in cricket. And, let's see, every test match, starts at 0. I'm not very encouraged by the performance that I saw in the first test. But I think if we go into test number 2 and potentially, if we can, manage to eke out, some more runs, then we potentially can be competitive. But looking at what we have, I think we're in for a long tour.
Thank you very much, Roger. Basil, I'm coming to you now with the first thing that I don't understand. You pointed out earlier that players like even the former captain, Richie Richardson, struggled in England. Why is it? And I'm bearing in mind that we went to Australia early and played 2 matches before the first test. Why is it that West Indies went to England so late? The one match that they decided to play, they turned it out into a corrigoat match instead of picking the 11 that they expected to play in the first test match and ensure that those guys have a proper practice match. So the 2 questions here, which I don't understand, that I'm asking you to explain. 1, why did they go to England so late? And 2, the one warm-up match that they had, why they turn it out into a corrigoat match instead of picking 11 and give those guys a proper game before the first test? Basil, over to you.
Well, I think the team left to go to England in June. I had a conversation with a player, one of the guys from Guyana, and he said they were leaving on the 22nd of June. So they were in England because also this youngster, Isaiah Thorne, went up there to participate in the pre-tour camp that they had before that warm-up match, and then the warm-up match, and then came back home, right? So They did go up, I would say, probably about the similar amount of time before the test match as they did when they went to Australia. Now, one of the problems with these practice matches is it's in the middle of the English county season, right? And it is not like in the past. The English county season is compressed into two parts because the best part of the summer in England, they play their 100 and their white ball part of the cricket, and the county season is put on hold. So because of that, unlike in the past, where county cricket played all through the entire summer, where you could have organized matches for touring teams to play against county teams and so on, leading into a test match, that environment no longer exists. Hence, for example, the team that we played against prior to the test match were all guys who are county reserves. None of them are regular first team county players. I looked up each and every one of them, how much first class cricket they had played. And the most was 18. And come all the way down to some of them who had never ever played first class cricket. They had played list stay and so on and so forth. So those are the struggles today to get to play warm-up matches in places like England and probably elsewhere, and it's no longer a part and parcel of touring teams going anywhere anymore in the past. So the challenge is now for teams going into such places, how do you prepare before a test match?
Thank you very much, Basil. Roger, I still want to hear the answer to the second part of what I don't understand. I'm trying to help me to understand why is it that West Indies didn't play a proper 11 and make the guys play a proper cricket match, being it was their only warm-up match before the first test. Help me to understand, Roger.
Yeah, well, first of all, obviously the landscape has changed. And, gone are the days when we would have, all these tour games. We looked at, England in India recently, where they didn't even play one warm-up game. Having said that, we went early enough, in my opinion, and we had an opportunity to play one proper practice game. It shows, a lack of planning on our part. I don't think we necessarily knew what our best 11 was going to be for the first test. So I think that is the reason why the think tank and the West Indies team decided to use this as sort of a trial game, sort of a showdown between Mikyle, Louis, and McKenzie to see who was going to open, to see how the bowlers looked. I don't think we necessarily went into this friendly game knowing what our best 11 was going to be. And that's the reason why a proper 11 would not have been played. They wanted to essentially give everyone a run out and from that see who was doing well, which, it shows a lack of planning.
Okay. Do you agree with that, Basil, that it really came down to a lack of planning why we have to be playing all these players in the one match when we should be really playing what we consider our best 11?
I don't know if it's necessarily a lack of planning. It is more showing the volatility of the West Indies bat lineup and so on, because the selectors on tour were not sure about whether McKenzie or Louis would be the guy to open with Brathwaite. So they had to give them a look, and essentially Louis won the race by scoring a half century in the game, right? So I think it's more. I don't think it's so much a lack of planning. I just think it's the volatility of our team, the fluidity of our team, that we guys are not is not where you could say this guy is a certainty and this guy is a certainty. That situation isn't there. We got a very very inexperienced batting lineup and so on. So I think that played a significant role in why they gave various people a run out in that 3-day game.
Thank you very much, Basil. Many persons are going to wonder if something is wrong with me. But in the T20 match, the Super 8 match against England, when West Indies need to win the toss, we lost the toss. Against South Africa, we lost the toss also. Against England in the first test match, we lost the toss. My experience is that every good captain or every great captain, they tend to win toss when it matters most. Starting with you, Roger, why is it that West Indies captains just cannot win a toss when it matters most? Why?
You know, luck is a huge part of sports, Carlton. And I think, obviously, you are correct in that recently we have lost a toss in important games. But I don't think the captains have control over, which side the coin falls on. And, if you look at this game, sure, conditions were overcast. And before the game started, both teams would have bowled. But if you look at the reality of what happened, I don't think the ball did so much where a good, or a solid batting team could not have gotten a decent score. They moved a little bit, but it was nothing alarming. I mean, I've seen the ball move a lot more in England. So I don't necessarily think that's the reason why we lost this first test. But, having said that, the captains have very little control over which side the coin falls on. It's a matter of luck. And they say in sports and in life, it's better if you're lucky than good.
Basil, I agree with Roger that whether West Indies had batted first or second, we may well have lost that match. But what I'm asking is that every good captain is lucky, Basil. Every good captain win toss when it matters. Just like what was his name? Amarzai ran poor and out from the boundary. That was luck. Every good captain, a part of being a good captain, is luck. Basil, are our captains unlucky?
I think luck is something to use that phraseology or term. I think you create your own luck in sport, right? You create your own luck. And spinning a toss is one thing you have no control of, right? A guy getting thrown out at the boundary, that's a great play executed, right? You have control as a player throwing the ball to hit the stumps, right? But spinning the toss is another thing. Maybe as we would say in Guyana, and other Caribbean nations have similar things, we would say maybe these captains need to go and bathe in some blue, which, blue, the thing you wash with, so they could wash off all the bad eyes on them, so they would be in a better position when they flick that coin.
So Basil, they need a bathe, they need a bath, they need to go to the beach.
Yes.
Because how is it that we're just losing these tasks so often? Now, sticking with you, Basil, and I know we have done a lot of analysis on the match. A lot have been said about the defeat.
So Carlton froze.
All right, let's see if he comes back.
Yes.
All right. Obviously, Carlton is we've lost Carlton there for a little bit.
Yeah.
But if we look at this match, past match, Basil, we saw where the West Indies batsmen were essentially strokeless wonders out there.
Yes.
We saw where the approach of the batsmen essentially.
He's back.
Sorry, gentlemen. Thank you very much. So, Basil, the question I was asking was about the dismissal of Brathwaite in both innings. In the second innings, his foot was outside leg stump while his middle stump got knocked back to a ball that pitched outside half stump. In the first innings, he got a long up and drag it onto his stump. Why is it that the West Indies captain is getting out in these fashions, Basil? Why?
Well, I'll tell you, I did not get to see him bat in the second innings because at the hotel in Barbados, the internet went down. Those two, the second and third day, so I was unable to see, right? Because I was watching the games on my iPad. But I did see him get out in the first inning. And it was a most uncharacteristic shot by Mr. Brathwaite. He actually just stood up and swiped, right? Like a cane cutter, and lost his stump. I was appalled. I was like, what? Brathwaite, you playing that kind of stroke? It was like out of nowhere, he just decided to take a hike and got played on. And he should know more than anybody else. In England, you want to make sure you get as close to the ball, you play the ball under your eyes. You don't drive through the line in England. It's not a place like Australia where you could drive through the line because the bounce and pace of the pitch and so on and so forth. So just to talk about McKenzie in the first inning too. I don't know what he was thinking. Did McKenzie think he was at Sabina Park? When in the old Sabina Park, that is, where the ball bounced nicely, you can hit it on the right, drive on the rise, or thought that he was still in Australia, and that's why he went to slip.
Okay, thank you very much, Basil. Your thoughts on the dismissal of Brathwaite, Roger?
Well, Kraigg Brathwaite is a defensive player with a poor defensive technique, and that's all it comes down to. If whenever you're a batsman in cricket and you're someone who is used to staying at the crease for a long time, you're thought of as a defensive player. At the very least, you're expected to have a really tight defense. And for me, Kraigg Brathwaite has one of the poorest techniques in cricket. He gets squared up very often, as he did in this game. He's usually caught with his 2 feet pointing directly down the pitch back at the bowler. And that's just a recipe for disaster anywhere, not just in England. And I just think it comes down to his his poor technique as a batsman. Obviously in the first innings, his shot selection, left a lot to be desired. And to be honest, it's not even so much shot selection. I would say execution, because that was a half volley outside the off stump. And when you should be sort of getting out and leaning over the ball and playing it late, he's just standing back and slapping at the ball. So I think it really comes down to just poor technique on Kraigg's part.
Thank you very much. And I'm happy that Roger is here for this next thing that I don't understand. I know that he's a staunch supporter of Jason Older. But I'm coming to you first, Basil. I don't understand why Jason Older, batting at number 8 for the West Indies for the last 2 years, his batting average keep going lower and lower and lower. And the reward for his batting average going lower and lower and lower is a promotion from number 8 to number 6. Basil, I don't understand. Please let me understand.
All I could say about that, the West Indies selectors rolled the dice. That's all it was. A situation, you roll the dice and say, all right, let's hope for the best. Holders, experience in England, and so on and so forth, right? That's all. Beyond that, I cannot give any and maybe also in their mind they feel Holder is a better player, a better batsman than De Silva, who would have been the other option to bat at 6 in that 11, right? That's all I could come up with in terms of why Holder batted where he did and so on. I will tell you this. Just to further my thought. Trent Bridge, maybe a different surface, obviously a different surface, different conditions there. And I got a feeling that Sinclair will come into the team. Now, if Sinclair is brought into the team, I will hope Sinclair will be batting at 6 and Mr. Holder goes back to 8.
Thank you very much, Basil. And Roger, you're a Jason Holder loyalist. Clearly, Basil, like I, do not understand why he batted at 6. The most common point that we heard why he batted at 6 is that he and Kraigg Brathwaite are best friends. So now, friends, you're representing the West Indies because you're a friend of the captain. So maybe Andre Crawley and I are good friends, so maybe I could get a pick in that team. But Roger, help me to understand why. Why was Jason Holder asked? And I'm not talking about his position in the team now. I'm asking why a man who is failing at number 8 was promoted to bat at number 6. Go ahead.
Just before Roger say something, since you and Andre Crawley is good friends, why did you contact him on that point? Because
Go ahead, Roger.
He could give you the chapter and verse.
Well, I would stop short of saying I'm a Jason Holder loyalist. I think I'm viewing the cricket from an unemotional lens. I think that's how I would look at it. In the context of West Indies cricket, Carlton and Basil, in the context of West Indies cricket, Jason Holder has an average of about 30, a batting average, right? It's probably 29 now, obviously with his recent struggles. And there have been times in the past where people have said Jason is a better batsman than a bowler. We have all seen over the last 6 months to a year that we now have a bowling attack that potentially can get 20 wickets, right? If things kind of fall our way, if the batsman can put enough runs on the board and the team is not under pressure. And for the balance of this West Indian team, we would want to play those 4 sort of out and out wicket taking bowlers, and naturally those bowlers would bat from 8 to 11. As a result, we want to play one all rounder, and it was always going to come down to, do we want to play a seam bowling all-rounder in Jason Holder, who has been picked for this tour over the likes of Kyle Mayers, over the likes of Justin Greaves, or did we want to go with a spinning all-rounder in Kevin Sinclair? The truth is this, Jason has struggled, yes. But if you look at it, the captain has also struggled. That's Kraigg Brathwaite over the last year. Probably struggled more than Jason Holder. I think the captain is averaging maybe around 12 or 15. But as Basil mentioned in his opening remarks, this is a batting lineup where number 2 to 5 have played 9 or 10 test matches between them. Jason is one of our experienced players who has played a number of test matches, who has made 100. He has the second most hundreds in this team. He has 3 test centuries, and I think he has 1 or 2 ODI hundreds as well. So Jason has, what you call coins in the bank. And I think, on this tour of England, if you're going to bring someone like Jason Holder and you're looking for a seaming all-rounder to play at Lords and someone who can take advantage of the slope, I think you might want to give Jason Holder the edge. And that is why he was preferred in this game. And I think if you're gonna pick someone like Jason Holder, you have to back him. And you can't give him 1 innings or 2 innings to say, hey, he's not good enough to bat at number 6 or 7. I think Jason has done enough where he deserves a run. He has never really gotten a run at number 6. Out of his all his test innings, he's only batted at 6 11 times in his career. So, and you know what? Jason's a better batsman than what we saw last week. I think it's only fair that he gets a run because of his experience, what he's done, the runs he's scored in the past. I think he's earned it. If it happens that Jason gets a run and he's unable to score the runs required of a test match number 6 or 7, then like other players, eventually I'm sure he will be dropped.
Basil, you can see there that Roger is really a Jason loyalist. But what I'm going to ask you now, Basil. Basil, give me a straight answer, 1-word answer here, Basil. Is Jason Holder one of the top 6 batsmen in that squad in England.
Yeah, he is. Based on record, he is.
He's one of our top 6 batsmen.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, let me move on to the next question then. The next thing that I don't understand. Looking at how the team batted in the first test match, and I heard Roger using the word strokeless wonder. From 1 to 11, they did not fire a shot in anger. Well, I shouldn't use the word shot because that is dangerous. They didn't fire a stroke in anger. At no time did they look like they intend to score runs. We know that the present West Indies batting coach, Jimmy Adams, was also a strokeless wonder. Are these so 2 things that I don't understand? Can this West Indies team win a cricket match batting this way? And is it that the influence of Jimmy Adams is being bear out in the batting approach of this team? Let's start with you, Basil.
No, I don't think we could use Jimmy's approach as a batsman to these guys. As a coach, you look at the players' skills and the build strengths and weaknesses, and you help them to want to express their strengths and weaknesses and give them guidance. I think, look, these guys, if you go down the list of all of them, they're averaging like 20-something in first-class cricket. Now, put that together with the standard of first-class cricket, they're averaging 20-something. Now, if you extrapolate those 20-something first-class averages to test cricket, it would be somewhere in the single digits for test cricket when you look at the standard between our first class and test cricket. So when you now put that in context, that's how a single digit batsman is going to bat. Because, and then the other point, all of these guys are still finding their way in test cricket to finally put a stamp on that point. Do I belong at this level? None of them could say they have done anything that would calm that mental part that I belong at this level. And that is a huge facet in a player at international level. Your belief. And if you're not, and I don't think any of them yet believe, because they don't have no scores on their record against any opposition that would make them feel that I belong at this level. You put all those things together, that's what you're going to see. Not Jimmy. Jimmy would give them the guidance about England conditions and how to play in England and what to look for and how you apply yourself and so on and so forth. But your style is your style. Jimmy can't impose his style on those guys.
Roger, when I look at that those West Indies batsmen in the first test, I saw a group of batsmen who was worried about getting out and not expressing themselves and thinking about what could happen, what glory ahead of them. I saw a group of batsmen who were looking at doom instead of glory. I saw a group of batsmen who, even if they are averaging 10, scoring 6 from 55 deliveries in a test match, you are just sitting duck to the bowlers. Can West Indies win match batting like this in test match? I'm not asking them to be reckless. Roger.
Obviously, we have a batting coach in Jimmy Adams, and a head coach in Andre Crawley. What I'm worried about is really the clarity with how these guys are playing, and what I'm seeing from these guys is they're not necessarily going out with positive thoughts, right? If you're thinking about getting down to the spinner, you have to think about hitting the spinner out of the ground. Your mind cannot be clouded with, am I going to miss the ball and get stumped, right? And I think there's just a lack of clarity in how these batsmen are playing and a lack of confidence. And you can see it. You can see that when they get out to the middle, their thought process is really consumed with, in England the ball is going to move, I have to leave the ball a lot, and it's all the negative thought processes and all the challenges that you face in England, but they're not necessarily thinking about the positive side of it and how to score runs. And we have seen where our batsmen have batted for quite a while, but they haven't moved the game forward. And if you're not moving the game forward, you're not going to score runs. And if you're not going to score runs, you're not going to win. I would not necessarily blame or put everything on Jimmy Adams, the coach of the West Indies team, and Andre Cole, the coach of the current West Indies team. But where I'm going to place a lot of blame on both Jimmy Adams and Andre Cole is the fact that Jimmy Adams was the director of cricket for about 5 to 7 years. I don't have the exact time frame, but he was director of cricket in the Caribbean before this. And you can see that there's no philosophy in terms of how we play cricket. And this is something that has to really filter down to our first class cricket. And the way we want our test cricket to play, the brand of cricket we want to play, the philosophy in terms of how we want to play, that has to be filtered down to all our 6 or 7 first class teams in the Caribbean. And that's where these players are going to be honed. That's where they're going to understand, here's how we want to play our cricket. Where I'm going to place some blame on Andre Cole. He's also been the head coach at the lower levels. He is the guy who was ran our academy for years. And these players have gotten to the highest level. Once they've gotten to this level, they're not necessarily or suddenly going to change and turn into batsmen who have this sort of positive mindset. And I believe in cricket, if you look at all the best teams, Australia, England, New Zealand, all of these teams, they look to score runs. At some point, you have to look to put pressure on your opponents. You have to look to put pressure on the opposing bowlers. If you don't do that, you're a sitting duck.
Thank you very much, Basil. Do you have any retort to that?
I agree. I agree with the sentiments that Roger's saying. I think we are expecting a whole lot more from these guys than what they're capable of. The one thing though, we could speculate and so on and so forth, but we don't know because we're not in the team meetings. In terms of, you both of you guys talked about the batters batted like they look like they're scared to get out rather than scoring runs. Well, if that is so, that is where I would definitively blame the coaches, because you want the player to understand he or she has your full backing. Regardless of what happens out there, you're going to back them. Now, a player plays a shot and you from outside looking in say, man, what were you doing there? And so on, when you ask them when they come in. And if they give you their viewpoint as to what they were trying to do and it's sound, it may not be in tune with what you may have been thinking at the time, you have to back them. So once a player understands that, look, I will be back to the hilt by the backroom staff when I go out there based on the preparation and so on, you wouldn't see them this notion of batting like you're frightened to get out. Look at the English batters. Because of the backing they receive from McKenzie and Stokes, they go out and play with freedom, right? Because they know they will be backed. So at something in sport, as in life, the more fearless you are, the more you move forward.
Thank you very much, Basil. I remember back in the 80s, still a teenager in high school. We were playing a match one Sunday and I was batting with this guy. I don't remember his name right now. And he fired a hook shot and he mistimed the hook shot. And I went down to him and I said to him, next time, man, just hit it further. He ended up making 100 in that match. I think I made something like 5. But when he came off the field, he told me thanks. He said, no one had ever tell me something like that before. And it gave him so much confidence then that he just started playing his shots throughout the match, his strokes. The champion is saying, welcome back. Tato Prince, welcome. Thank you, man. Julia Mendez, respect. Mr. Casanova, respect. I just want to say, generally, I am okay. I never had any damage to my residence throughout the hurricane. It was quite fine. What happened, though, it took a long while for electricity to come back, and it only came back last night. But otherwise, I am fine. I'm just asking you guys to support our relief effort. Roger Tracy, who is here with us this morning, is a chairman of our relief effort, and we are trying to get things to the people in Jamaica. Later today, I should be handing out some mattresses to some persons in Manchester. So I'll be doing that later today. But generally, I'm okay. Thank you for your well wishes. Please do contribute to our relief effort. The link will be in the video description. I should have had it scrolling across the bottom of the screen, but sometimes you haven't done this for 2 weeks. Sometimes you don't remember everything that you should have done. Yes. Lord Prudent is also said good morning to Mr. Brown and the crew. Mr. Casanova said, might as well send out the T20 squad to play tests because they are way better than our test players. Basil, quickly, do you agree?
I just want to say something to what you said about the match you played. And I know this about McCallum since he was captain. McCallum was like this. You hit the ball, you're looking to clear the fences, right? And the man catch you on the boundary. When you come in, McCallum would say to you, next time hit it over the boundary. So when you go back and bat as a batter, you're not thinking twice. And we all know, those of us, no matter what level of cricket you've played as a batter, your mind must be clear every time you face a ball. You can't be in two minds, as we would say, because the minute you're in two minds, that is a recipe for disaster. So that's why I'm saying that unless, I don't know about the T20 guys being better, because in T20 cricket, tight defense is not something that is a prescriptive thing. And looking to score after every ball is T20, but in Test cricket is a little different, right? The field set are different. Lots of those edges in T20 that goes to the boundary goes to hand in Test cricket, right? So I would not jump to that conclusion.
Okay. I want to thank everyone who are wishing me well. I've seen them a number, Mikyle, all of those persons who are wishing me well. I appreciate you. Vern Jacobs is saying, Roger, that the decision as to who would start should have been made in advance of the practice match. Do you agree with Vern Jacobs?
Absolutely. I think, usually, again, with the landscape of cricket these days, teams don't usually, have a long time to prepare once you get on tour. Gone are the days when you have, 3 or 4 games where everyone could sort of get a good run out and you can see how people are adjusting in these conditions. I think once you're going on tour, the coaches and captain should have a pretty clear idea of what your first choice 11 looks like, obviously based on conditions and based on the surface. So, for your bowling attack, for example, or the composition of your bowling attack, you'd obviously have to see what conditions are like. But generally, you should have had a clear idea. We should have gone, the West Indies should have gone to England knowing what their opening combination was going to be. And of course, their middle order batting up to at least number 5. So I totally agree.
Okay. Basil, Anderson getting Joshua in the second innings, you would not have seen it. You were saying that it was just outstanding. What your thought about it, Roger? Anderson dismissal of Joshua da Silva.
To be honest, Jimmy Anderson is still a quality performer. Joshua da Silva obviously, has been found wanting. Again, just like Kraigg, he does have, technical deficiencies. And it was par for the course, and it's what we've seen from Anderson for the last 20 years, and I would say exactly what we've seen from Joshua De Silva for the last 2 or 3 years. So no surprises there.
Basil, Crawley, Brathwaite, Older, Adams, they must go.
No, typical West Indian fans, my man Kiteran there. No. We get too emotional after one game and so on. We don't chop and change. Kohli is a new coach. Kohli is finding his way as an international coach. Well, who we gonna replace Brathwaite with as captain and all of those different things? Let's let the tour, let the series play out. It's one game, it's a 3-test series. I feel these guys are going to show a better account of themselves in the second test. I feel that because they would have gotten a taste of what it's like in England now at that level and make the adjustments. Look what happened in Australia. You remember the first game? We get beat inside just 2 days and a session, and then the next test we won the series. So let's see what happens in the second test, and don't jump to cutting people out with such haste.
How do you react to that one? How do you react to that, Raja?
I don't necessarily subscribe to the notion of keeping a captain in a team because there's no one else. I really want us to, or hope that we back Brathwaite at least for a few games, and I'm hoping that he comes good as a batsman, because his first priority or responsibility is as a batsman. It is to score runs, and of course, again, he has a few coins in the bank, so he's gotten a run. But at the end of the day, if he doesn't score runs, there's no way he can command a place in the West Indies team. And if he's not commanding a place, then eventually he's going to have to go. And you have to find someone else. You want to pick your best 11. And from your 11, you find a captain. So, that's what I would say for Brathwaite. And the same for Holder. As far as Crawley and Adams, the jury is obviously out. When we named our coaches, I was, really hoping for someone, or coaches with sort of, more current mindsets, players who have been recently removed from the game. I initially wanted to see perhaps someone like, Owen Morgan, coaching our team, or someone like that, someone of that ilk, someone, Stephen Fleming. Obviously, Stephen Fleming has been removed from the game for a while, but he seems to be someone who has really kept up with the advancing nature of cricket and what's going on. So, the jury is still out as far as the coaches are concerned, but I wouldn't necessarily put them out to pasture just based on these performances. I think overall, they have to look at how are we going to play our cricket? What brand of cricket are we going to play? What is our identity? And I think right now that is what we're lacking, and that comes down to communication and clarity.
Basil, I saw you're itching to reply to this, but I just want to say a few words on it before you reply to it. The first thing I must let Ferrell know, and thank you for your comment, Ferrell, is that the West Indies is not, and I repeat, the West Indies is not the only ICC member where you have an archipelago of nations making up that membership. They are not the only one. The second point I want to say to Ferrell is that I think that you should put this request to the JCA and the Jamaican government. If you think that Jamaica should leave the West Indies, let them leave. I don't support it, but if you think so, put this request to the JCA and also put it to the government of Jamaica. I said 2 points, but I want to ask you one question, Ferrell. Presently, the Jamaica Cricket Association get $10 million every month from Cricket West Indies. What would replace that money? And bear in mind, we did not bid for the World Cup because of financial reason. Basil, I see you want to say something about it.
Yeah, this is a question we often hear the emotions. West Indies cricket fans are, in various terms, very emotional. Every time we lose, we look looking to break up the whole shop and throw it out and throw the baby the bathwater. But you raised the very most important point that I got information. I remember getting information about what you just said. That's paid to every regional board, territorial board by West Indies Cricket Board. Then put on top of that, this gentleman from Jamaica. Would the Jamaica players accept pittance or almost nothing to play cricket for Jamaica? Because now they would not be receiving the kind of fees that they're currently receiving, right? Those Jamaican players who are on West Indies contracts that are receiving 6 figures in US dollars a year, where will this money be coming from the Jamaica Cricket Association? So, just those two factors, you just put them in, and that's the cold water get thrown on the idea, especially in this era where guys are looking for their remuneration. Hence, you breaking up the West Indies, you will be cutting remunerations drastically, my friend. So I think that idea has to be put out to pasture. We have to figure out a way in which the West Indies cricket can work. At present moment, the current structure and so on is not fit for purpose.
Yes, Basil. And just one more point that I want to add to that before I go to Mr. Jason Older loyalist. The number of persons that would be out of job if Jamaica decide to go it alone. Right now, I think the Jamaica Cricket Association, players and staff and everything add up to more than 50. So right away, more than 50 persons would be out of job. Mr. Casanova is saying, Roger, Jason Older should not be in the playing 11 ahead of Kevin Sinclair.
No.
Again, for me, Kevin and Jason, they're competing for the same spot. Someone like Akan Mears, I thought, should be in that mix. Again, it really depends on what is the team looking for. Because, I believe in the team figuring out what should the composition of the team be. What am I looking for at number 6? And based on what I'm looking for, then let's find the player to put into the slot. So we're looking for an all-rounder at 6 or 7, someone that can bat, someone that can make runs, and someone that's going to bowl. Now, am I looking for a seamer at number 6? Am I looking for a fourth seamer? Or am I looking for a spinning all-rounder, because perhaps I'm going to play my 4 frontline seamers from 8 to 11, or I need 2 spinners. I need a supporting spinner along with Motie. So it really depends. I think it's interchangeable. I think it's horses of courses. It's condition dependent. If you're at Lords and you need an extra seamer, it's Jason Holder. Maybe if you're somewhere else where the track is a little bit drier, then it's Kevin Sinclair. So I don't believe it's set in stone as to which one should play. I believe both guys are interchangeable, depending on the conditions and depending on the composition of your team.
Do you agree, Basil?
No, I don't think Holder and Sinclair are actually in competition. I think Sinclair plays the person that Sinclair would play over. It would be Motie, depending on the conditions, etc. Because Motie has not inked himself as this first choice spinner in the West Indies team, right? Based on Motie's performance at Lords, it'll be very interesting to see if they replace Motie, because in Australia, it was easy because he bowled a bunch of garbage in the first test at Adelaide, whereas in this game here, Motie bowled well. So that would be interesting to see what they do at Trent Bridge. But as Motie is the person that they would interchange with Sinclair, in my view, because England is always seamer friendly, right? So you have to pick the bowlers you think who will be most likely to get the wickets in England, and a bowler like Sinclair you would not put on the top of the list in terms of that.
Yeah, let me say something quickly, Carlton.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's no comparison as far as bowling with Motie and Sinclair. Motie is a much better bowler than Sinclair's a part-timer. He's not a very, he's a part-time bowler. So, and that's why I don't necessarily think they're in competition unless you're looking for a spinner who's just going to play a holding role, because that's what Sinclair is.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Sticking with you, Basil.
The precedent's already been set. We saw it in Australia. That's why I say it's not hold up, because the person who was in the team replacing Hold in Australia was Graves. Graves played in both test matches, but Motie played in one, and then Sinclair came into the Motie space. So that's why I say they have already set that precedent that the person that most likely would sit out if Motie plays, doesn't play, if Sinclair plays, would be Motie. And yes, I agree with you, Roger. It's cheese to chalk when you talk about them as bowlers.
Yeah, and I think it's a wrong precedent.
We're coming up to the hour mark, and we need to go very quickly now, you know. And that is why I'm not debating you guys. It's not that I necessarily agree with everything you are saying, but I want to get through this. We're coming up to the hour mark. My question, the champion is asking Basil, and you as a coach, why is it that West Indies keep on hiring players who did okay as a cricketer, but not looking for international coach?
Okay, let me just tell this person, tell the champion. Pat Riley. Was Pat Riley a great basketball player when he played in the NBA? No, he wasn't. He was a journeyman. Was Phil Jackson a great basketball player when he played in the NBA? He was a journeyman, right? The greatest coaches are not the greatest players. Very rarely you find a great player being a good coach, much less a great coach, right? It's often the journeymen who have to work so hard and know the details and all of those kind of things are the ones that become the greatest coaches, because they understand where the great players, you know, not to say they don't work hard, it comes easier to them than the journeyman. So no, I don't think it has anything to do. Coaching and being a player are two different skill sets, totally.
Thank you very much, Basil. Yes, you told me that Jason Older was going to play, but can you justify this spot in the team? But that's another argument. I want you to take this one for me quickly, Roger, because you have said a lot about Jason Older. But I really love this point from Canberra, and it actually let me laugh. And especially the last part, he's saying, what kind of runs is Older going to give you at this point in his career? He's a genuine number 8. Even if you give him a longer run than Wesal run up, the result will be the same at 6 and 7. It doesn't matter what long run you give him at 6, Roger, he will still fail. What are your reactions?
No, I don't agree. I mean, listen, are Jason's best days as a batsman behind him? It could be. The Jason Holder that we saw 2 or 3 years ago certainly was a good enough batsman to bat at number 6. Right now, he's going to be under a lot of pressure, right? Because he's expected to perform as a batsman. Before, he was playing as a bowler. So essentially, it was almost felt as if his runs at 8 would almost be a bonus. So when you're playing under less pressure, yes, it might be easier to score runs. Jason might not make it, you know, but I think he deserves the opportunity. To be honest, and based on the squad, he obviously has to play if he's the Seminole all-rounder. But to be honest, the guy that I would prefer in this role would be Kyle Mayers, but we don't know if he's available due to his T20 commitments.
Okay, there are a number of comments. I apologize for not taking your comments, but we are up on the hour mark. We have actually gone past the hour. And there's something very important that we need to discuss. And we want to spend about 5 minutes and discuss it, especially with you two guys who live in the United States of America. Once again, U.S. cricket is in trouble. They are suspending executives and CEO right, left, and center. And they're on the agenda at the annual general meeting of the ICC coming up in July.
A couple days.
Yes, and they may well be suspended again. We know for a fact that at the World Cup, the USA did not get any. USA cricket did not spend any of the money. It was the ICC that spent the money. USA provide the invoice, and the ICC pay the bill. Gentlemen, both of you are in the USA. Please tell us what is happening to US cricket at this time, gentlemen. Go ahead, both of you.
The article, I saw that article in Forbes. I wasn't surprised because I knew of all that information. If you remember, early on this program, me and Roger was on, and I echoed those sentiments about the nonsense that's going on in U.S. cricket today. The previous administration, USACA, who I was a critic of USACA, right? Because I will criticize if you're not doing the right things. When you do the right things, I give you praise. And this current administration makes USACA look like a first class administration, and that is saying a lot, right? This administration is an absolute abomination. Every one of those people in U.S. cricket today should be thrown out to the pasture. They are not fit for purpose. They don't know what they're doing. They like cricket, full stop. They don't know one thing about administrating cricket. All of them need to go. That is the situation we're in, right? These guys, look, 2008, I was at a USACA meeting. And all of these guys, because those times I was very involved in coaching youngsters in the national tournaments and so on in those years. And I used to observe every time in the national tournament, every team west of the Mississippi was all South Asian. The very few of other ethnicities you would see from the team from Florida. My team, I had a few. New York and Connecticut, everybody east of the Mississippi. But we had a sprinkling. New York would have the most, mixture. And Florida. And I raised that because at that meeting, several of these guys were getting into the academies, were starting to spring up at that time. And they were lauding how they're getting all these youngsters to come and play. And I got up after all of them finished and said, I don't see no white guys amongst y'all thing. I don't see nobody else but your people. So y'all praising yourselves, but you're not taking the game outside. And also, what you guys are doing with this academy thing, you're creating a hierarchy. Because now, most working class people cannot afford to go to no academy. It costs tens of thousands for children to go to these academies. So now, a working class youngster has no avenue to learn to play the game. Right? And that is where we at in U.S. cricket. Right? So now you see teams representing the United States of all South Asians, because those are the youngsters that are able, their parents are able to afford to go to these academies. Right? And that is not good for U.S. cricket. Look, we got an under 19 women team going to be playing against the West Indies. And I seen cracks on social media about it. Oh, is that India A or India B or so on and so forth? And what was disappointing in some of the responses I saw from other South Asians, oh, they're all born in America. You're not getting it. It's not about them being born in America. It's about having an American cricket team that reflects the nation. I'm done.
Yes, Roger, go ahead. Go ahead, Roger.
It all comes down to one incompetency of the administrators, and it all comes down to folks or certain groups, and their self-interest. As Basil mentioned, even if you take a look at the sort of age group, the under 19, the under 15s, those only come from the kids who attend these academies. And I don't necessarily think it's only, because the South Asian community is able to afford these academies, but they're probably the only group that is being recruited for these academies as well. That's a part of it. As a president of the South Florida League or South Florida Cricket, I can tell you for sure that across the country, a lot of cricket is being played in America, right? But it is really recreational cricket, and it's really private groups putting together these leagues all across the country. Sure, we're registered under USA Cricket for different reasons, but there's never a mandate coming from US Cricket. There is no funding coming from USA Cricket. There are no programs in USA Cricket. We have there's no communication from USA Cricket for the most part. We have never gotten any sort of mandate as far as what we're supposed to do with our cricket, as far as programs that we're supposed to implement, and you know, whether for local or regional competition. So a lot needs to be done. There is a complete lack of competency, a complete lack of transparency, and until we get that part right, and these folks are able to really, you know, use the funds that they're getting from the ICC, or they used to get from the ICC properly, and filter it across the country into these leagues and implement programs and provide a mandate for all the local associations, I think we're in trouble as far as growing USA cricket. Obviously, America is a country that is built on immigrants in many areas, and is probably, you know, probably for the USA national cricket team to advance, is probably going to have to go that way, at least for now, where we're going to try to get that sort of ready-made product coming from different countries to play for the US. But as far as homegrown talent and sort of that natural progression of cricket and the cricket system, we're far way off.
So Carlton, I want to just add something quickly to what Roger said there. Another thing I said many years ago, told this to the then USAPA president, we needed to take a comprehensive look at our cricket environment, because it's pretty much a recreation environment. It is not, one, promoting the sport, taking the sport beyond our little silos, and two, it's not conducive to developing players. I use the example of Ireland. When Ireland made the decision that they wanted to become a test playing nation, they did a comprehensive study of their cricket landscape and transformed it to facilitate that. Now United States is playing in World Cups and so on and so forth. We cannot continue to be in these recreational leagues and so on. And as Roger correctly said, the current setup, there is no mandate to all how you organize leagues or so on and so forth in the interest of developing and promoting the game outside of the community, developing facilities that will be conducive to young people being able to develop their cricket in this country. And those are the things that I've been wanting. And it's very, ICC, I read in the article where our director said the ICC have been treating U.S. cricket with kid gloves. And you know why they've been doing that? Because they're the ones that brought in this current association. So they threw out the other one, who they call every name under the book. They bring in a negative association, which is worse. So it's egg in their face for their inadequacy. And because, I will say this finally, the ICC has never, and I repeat this, never sought out people who understand the cricket landscape in this country and who know cricket and what is necessary to develop cricket in this country. They've never sought us out. Never. And that's why they keep falling on their face.
I'm going to say one more thing quickly here, Carlton. One more thing quickly. The World Cup recently came to the United States. We hosted World Cup games here in Florida, in New York, and also in Dallas. And, none of these local associations benefited, or local cricket benefited from the World Cup, either from, a financial perspective or from a facility improvement perspective. And I'm not referring to the stadiums that the local leagues do not have access to. I'm referring to the local practice facilities, the local grounds where our homegrown players are supposed to be developed. There's been absolutely zero benefit from this World Cup. The World Cup has come and it's gone, and that's it. And I'm sure this doesn't happen in any part of the world.
And Roger, just to say, in Florida, it's primarily Caribbean people playing cricket, right?
And South Asians.
Yeah, South Asian, but primarily in Florida, right? I mean, I've seen the influx of South Asians in recent years, else, right?
No, I would say it's probably more South Asian. It's probably a 60.
Well, yeah, well, I see. That's what I'm saying. I've seen the influx in recent years, which is happening everywhere, because we Caribbean people are no longer playing cricket in the numbers we played when I played and after I stopped playing and so on and so forth. But because South Florida, just like New York, has been pegged as mostly Caribbean people, they have never, ICC has never taken the thing to reach out to the Caribbean communities wherever we are in this country for our input in the cricket situation. They have never done so. Even just to give an example, even cricket promoters, several years ago when they had that exhibition thing where the Tendulkars and Laras and all of them, they would play the game in New York at the Met Stadium, then they went to Texas and then California. Here you had the greatest West Indian batsman of this generation participating in that match in Brian Lara, playing in the area that has the largest Caribbean community in the world, the tri-state area of New York. And they never even marketed to us. I remember telling the Trinidadian woman I was dating at the time, I said, I been to see a match with Lara Saturday. She said, what? You been to see where? Lara? Brian? I said, yes, Lara play a game in New York. She said, we did not know about it because the Trini posse would have been out there in the thousands. Mm-hmm. You know, similarly.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Mm-hmm. What I'm happy for, though, is that the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee have taken an interest in the matter, and they may establish a national governing body. Because previously we have USA Cricket Association and they were disbanded. Yes. I know you have USA Cricket.
Yeah.
And they are on the verge also of being suspended. And I'm very happy to see that the US Olympic Committee have taken an interest in the matter. And this, in my opinion, not only spell well for USA Cricket, but also for Caribbean cricket. Because if boys and girls in Jamaica and Guyana and Barbados and Trinidad knows that they can get a scholarship and go to the USA to play cricket just like track and field, we may well see more little boys and girls playing cricket in the Caribbean countries. Gentlemen, please.
I just want to say one quick point on what you talk about the Olympic Association. And the main reason why the Olympic Association is getting involved, remember, cricket will be played in the 2028 Olympics in the United States, right? And the Olympic Association will be overseeing that. And all different associations that would have teams that would participate will have to be certified, have this certification process from the Olympic Association, which is the National Governance Certification. As a result, if the USA Cricket does not get that from the Olympic Association, what will happen? They will go to an alternate route to recognize some other body to facilitate getting a US team. And that is not the confusion we would want to have in this country, where we would have competing forces to pick teams and all of that kind of chaos. So it's, I am glad that finally the ICC would put this thing on the agenda, because some serious things need to be happening, because that thing that they put in place to replace USACA has been an abomination.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, and I really appreciate you being here. It was a long while. The second test match comes up on Thursday, and we do hope that the West Indies will do better. But I'll see you tomorrow with another.
It's tomorrow.
Thursday.
It's not the tomorrow? 16th? Isn't it the 16th?
I think it's the 18th. No, man, I have the 18th for the second test match. So let me double check that. It won't take long for me to double check, but I have the 18th. Yes, I'm just looking 18th, here. 18th, well, it's
18th. You're correct. 18th. My bad.
Yes, man. Yes, it's the 18th. So it will come up on Thursday. We are going to pick a playing 11. Will we go into that match with the same playing 11? But let's see. Tomorrow we'll discuss that. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Thank you, all of you. And remember, I'm going to put the link to the GoFundMe in the description, and I'm also going to put it in the comment section. So please click on those links. And Roger, you see there in the green shirt, is the chairman of the Jamaica relief effort. So thank you very much, Roger, for the role that you are playing, and I hope we can see this through to a successful conclusion. Please support the Jamaica Hurricane Relief Effort by the Cricket Forum Foundation. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Take care of yourself. Take care of your loved ones.
Mm-hmm.